when they brought in Logic, the rookie, coming in, they weren't too confident in blasting, and they had a phenomenal player because not only did he get comfortable during the playoffs, he brought that play into the play-in stage, and it felt like all 5 players were really confident about that bottom lane setup.
And whenever there's a rookie coming in onto the international stage, I always have to ask the question, is it just beginner's luck? Because you can only get so far being like, hey, I'm the rookie, I have nothing to lose, and every match that we win is actually something where there's no pressure on you. You could lose it and nobody's going to criticize you, right? Now you're in this place where you're in this best of 5 on the international stage, and the stakes just get higher from here. So I want to see what Lodic's able to do, or if he's going to default to the veterans.
And especially since Sword Art and Betty are the core that remain in that bottom lane and very experienced on the side of Flash Wolves, we'll see what Edward and Lodic can do. And when we talk about players that remain and the mixture of both veteran players and new blood on both teams, we talk about experience and possibly the discrepancy in experience between the two. Now, here we tallied up the years of professional play experience among all players on both sides, and we do see some interesting differences, especially in the top side of the map.
It's funny because when Diamond Prox was on the desk, Jeff Dasher's 3rd day appearance, he talked about the 3 generation of players from him and Edward towards, of course, PvP Steos and Kira, and then the new blood in the bottom side of the map. It's the same when it comes to Flash Wolves as well.
Years of
and what I'm really looking at here is just the difference
players
and where the disparities are, because that top side of the map, PvP Steos used to be a
jungler,
jungler, and he
side of the
moved
map. It's the same when it comes to
so Diamond Prox could fill in on the team.
Yeah.
So we have when people who know how to play jungle and exploit a lane up against these guys who are inexperienced on the top half with Mujin and Hanabi. That's where I'm looking for Gambit to potentially make some moves. But then, like you said, there's that inexperience in the bottom lane of Lodic that does have to be a big question mark.
True, and also in the mid lane we see it's relatively similar between Kira and the top side of the map.
It's funny because when Diamond Prox
Maple,
was on the
but
desk,
I would say that Maple just has played on higher international levels for the times that he has been there, and I'm very interested to see what that lane matchup is going to look like, Maple and Kira, because these are 2 guys that have a very different style. And this guy, he took down Faker before. He's an assassin master. He's no slouch.
Yeah, because he goes onto the international stage and he performs time and time again. And both of them are kings within their own region in the mid lane. So that's fun to see. What I don't know what's going to be coming because both of these players have such weird styles. Not weird styles, but differing styles.
And like LeBlanc is back in the meta, so Maple could potentially play some assassins. And then Kira, he's already shown us his control mages, the Anivia that gets banned against him constantly, and then the Karthus, the lasers from above. I want to see these compositions come out and see what happens in mid lane.
I'm very excited to see if Kira is going to stick to the control mage style, if he has something up his sleeve, because we've seen that Gambit isn't afraid to be creative, and we also saw that you said with the Karthus Nocturne composition, Diamond Prox pulling out the Nocturne, and then when we take a look at that jungle matchup, there again is a big difference in experience. The rookie of Mujin versus Diamond, and Diamond has a wealth of experience, but I feel like this is a performance to be proud of in contrast to what we've seen at Worlds last year.
Yeah, he went 0-4 in the World's group stages in 2017, or the play-in stage, and a lot of criticism was levied towards him. I think that he underperformed. He performed pretty terribly, and people were saying the Diamond Prox of old is dead, and he's never coming back. The guy you remember no longer exists. But now, the 5-1 out of the play-in stage, Diamond was a huge carry for them in multiple games. This is the redemption. This is the resurrection of Diamond Prox, and if he's able to take down Mujin today and really take it to a rookie, that's when he solidifies himself as Diamond is back.
And that's the thing, is that he did it
this is the redemption. This is the resurrection
with
of
Edward.
Diamond
He wasn't
Prox.
alone in a lot of the plays that he was making
today
with the
and really
Nocturne
take it to a rookie.
That's
So
I want to see what he can do versus Mujin. And that's the thing, is that he did it trying to fill the shoes of his resurrection. They had a lot of strong synergies in a lot of plays that he was making with the Nocturne, and that has not been as strong during the LMS regular season. So I hope to see that if Mujin can actually form that relationship with him, and definitely Sword Art if they want to contest that bottom lane.
Yeah, pressure on both squads being to the LMS and pride to the LCL and see what they can do. I'm hearing a lot of good things from both squads, but I'm also hearing a lot of uncertainty, again, about the relative level of the Flash Wolves. So who do you peg to win this one, and why?
Right now, I think that the Flash Wolves are a stronger team than Gambit. I think that they would easily be able to take this, but I am actually predicting Gambit 3-2 because I think that what Gambit's been doing, and they've been preparing over and over again for a very long time, and they said that was the difference maker. When they came into Worlds, it was the lack of preparation. So now I think they've actually prepared a lot. They have a lot of strategies that are hidden, and I think they'll be able to take 3 games off of the Flash Wolves with an unconventional fashion.
And here's the thing, I agree with you on the strategical aspect.
So now I think they've actually prepared
Gambit are going to come out with some
lot of strategies that
they're going to have something prepared. But the question is whether or not Flash Wolves are going to be able to adapt.
Unconventional fashion.
I think that's going to be the case. That's why I have Gambit taking one game, but Flash Wolves are going to take the rest.
Hold up. That means we take the exact opposite of what Raz says.
Oh, no!
Yeah,
Wait a minute.
Brought to you by Supermassive 3-0.
Hold on. Lol. But I'm just saying right now, the point still stands. It's going to be on Gambit to prove me wrong.
I'm just playing with you. It's the last day, so we got to have some fun. I think it's going to be 3-2 because I always vote for the 5 games
For
just
who?
for the show, for fun, for the Flash Wolves. I don't know, but logically they should be a bit stronger, right? If we look at the regions, but who the hell knows? We'll see. The one thing I hope is that we see a lot of big plays, a lot of interesting plays, and we also want you guys to send in everything that caught your eye on the Rift throughout the knockout stage, every big play, using the hashtag MSI 2018, and we're going to check them all out after our last game. So that'll be it from us here in the Analyst Desk and the intro. We've talked enough. We want to meet the casters, and we definitely want to meet the teams. Take it away.
I haven't talked enough. I still got words to say. What are you talking about? Shocks.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Shocks and Aiden. I'm Julian Pastry Time Card, joined by Jake Spawn Tiberi and Andrew Vedius Day. Gentlemen, so glad to have you.
It's good to be here.
A wonderful joy to cast for the first time with Jake Spawn Tiberi.
Is this our first cast together?
This is our first cast.
Yeah, it's good to be here, and I think that this is one of the more interesting matchups we could have drawn, and I want to see what the depth of these teams are, because so many new players, this is going to be an absolute banger.
Certainly is, as we are going to meet the teams in shortly, but not quite there just yet, gents. And again, I think much like yesterday, just so much uncertainty moving into this matchup, because we thought Evos weren't going to be too good, and boy, were we proved wrong.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think this is going to be another question of depth of regions. Like, how deep is the LMS now? Because, you know, AHQ, J-Team, G-Rex has come out of nowhere, but the Flash Wolves have always reigned supreme, and we'll see whether that is due to the rest of the region getting weaker or the fact that they've remained strong.
I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do, but Pastry, I think it's time to meet the team.
Certainly is. On that note, let's welcome the competitors taking to the stage today. On the blue side, it is Flash Wolves. In the top lane, Hanabi. In the jungle, Mujin. In mid, Maple. AD carry, Betty. Support, Sword Art. Their coach, Warhorse. And their sub-jungler, Morning. On the other side of the rift, their opponents, it's Gambit Esports. In the top, PvP Stayhorse. In the jungle, the legend, Diamond Prox. In mid lane, Kira. Their AD, Lodic. Support, Edward. Coach, Atramains. And their sub-jungler, Segimitsu. Once again, let's hear it for our competitors today. And boys, the next thing on the agenda is Champ Select. And boy, am I excited what these two teams are going to. The most creative teams of the play-in stage so far, and a team we haven't seen play yet.
Exactly. 2 patches ago is when we last saw the Flash Wolves play on 8.6. They definitely had a lot of priority on things like Azir. Ezreal Braum was a big bottom lane pick for them. But just like we saw from Evos, you never really know what they've prepared. They've now had a lot of time to watch Gambit play and adapt to some of these strategies. But you can say the same for Gambit. They played 5 different champions over 6 games.
And that's what I was going to say. Maybe if you drew another team, not Gambit, then you would have actual preparation to go for. But how do you prepare for a Karthus Nocturne comp that was designed to attack bottom lane? Like, you know that Kira's going to play Anivia, sure, but he just seems to pick it regardless of what you want to take to Summoner's Rift. So I think these are areas that Flash Wolves can potentially look to attack in game 1 and 2. But the meta of this series will be incredibly interesting.
One of the big things is I feel like you cannot afford to give away Kaisar to either one of these AD carries. Lodic, the young rookie, has really been stepping up on the playing stage, especially in the hands of those champions. But Betty, we know mechanically he is very strong, and I imagine that if you give it to him, he's going to have a good performance.
And not to mention, it kind of suits that gameplay that the Flash Wolves like to bring out. They like to be a little bit more lane dominant, but they want Sword Art to be able to leave a little bit. And if Betty can just farm up to the 2-3 item mark, we've seen that when Flash Wolves get to that mid game, they explode, they rip open games, and they win very quickly.
Well, we are going to get into the draft for game number 1. We'll see what these two teams have in store. Flash Wolves on the blue side for the first one, Gambit over on the red, and first things first, respect is given. Anivia banned by the Flash Wolves.
I feel like it makes a lot of sense. Kira, in team fights, he looks exceptional on the champion. Going for the slightly more different build in terms of maxing the W first rather than the Q to have the utilization of the walls and the zone control definitely shows a lot of respect and expertise towards Kira.
And so much of the current style of League of Legends reintroduce champions that no longer rely on gap close. We're looking at Olaf, we're looking at Sion, Skarner, Trundle, all of these champions, and it really does fit the Anivia wheelhouse. So the fact that Kira is a legacy player of this champion and it has a fantastic spot in the current meta, I think it's one of those ones that if you don't want to play against it, it's kind of the free ban.
I also feel like looking at some of the bans from Gambit right now, we've seen the early ban onto the Skarner. Now, when you look at the champions that Mugen is typically preferred, it is things like the Sejuani and the Jarvan. And in his finals, he played a lot of Skarner, but then defaulted to the Kha'Zix. So Gambit might be trying to put Mugen onto the Kha'Zix, or maybe they want to look to take it away from him and see what else he has available in his playbook.
And again, the metagame has just shifted so much since people have had tape on the Flash Wolves, so it can certainly be tough to navigate as GP and Ezreal will also get taken away by the Flash Wolves. Alistar there for Gambit, and last but not least, it is Sejuani, so still taking a note from the last games they saw.
Yeah, it's absolutely important to acknowledge the fact that Mugen's champion pool has been the area they hit, and I think the reason behind that is not only is he a rookie, but he is responsible, especially throughout that final series, of going towards Maple's lane, so we have to continue to track whether this does put him onto a non-gank heavy jungler.
So kind of all these things fell out. We're talking about some bans, and turns out Rakan and Kai'Sa have been traded, which were pretty much mainstay red side bans for most of the play-in.
And initially I was thinking, oh, Caitlyn, Morgana, they make a lot of sense, but with the priority for Gambit to ban away the junglers, a lot of these strong power picks that we've typically been seeing throughout the play-in stages have been left available. So I would look to think that Gambit would either go for a Thresh or a Morgana on the next rotation to make sure that they have a decent matchup into the Rosaya Rakan the Flash Wolves have drafted.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a little bit strange to go to Morgana in my opinion. It will be great late game, but throughout the laning phase, you're still going to have the potential all in. So I think that you have to go fire with fire. I would love to see a Thresh come out of Edward here, and for him to step up to the plate, look to be actively playmaking, because we know that is the style that Sword Art wants to be playing, especially on something like Rakan.
And things have just kind of been closed out. Kha'Zix is the selection from Mugen, with a few junglers banned away and Trundle taken. And it does feel like Edward is trending towards a more aggressive lane support. We've seen a decent amount of Braum, but Thresh will be great as well.
And with how squishy this comp is, I would be really interested to see if Maple defaults back to something like Galio, something that has been tapped down time and time again, but he has shown within the LMS, because I'm looking down the lineup, and they are going to be able to start these fights. They will have backline access, but without the CC, it's going to be difficult.
And I feel like something that we saw from Gambit during the play-ins was that when Lodic was on something that wasn't an Ezreal, this team loved to play through bot. So already they're reading the expectation that Galio will be taken off the board. And I feel like Ornn is going to be a big priority now for Gambit, because Flash Wolves, Hanabi, a very young player on the team, a brand new rookie to the legacy of Flash Wolves. One of the big things that he played during the regular season was Ornn and Gangplank. By already banning away the Gangplank and needing a follow-up engage to the Rakan, I feel like Ornn becomes the next value thing.
But then they banned it. So clearly respecting the power on the other side for Stayhouse as well. There's Rise banned away from Maple on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I just have a look at what's left available for Flash Wolves, and it seems that they need tanks in areas that you can't necessarily get them. Potentially they're going to be defaulting to something like a Sion, which isn't great, into the Trundle. Potentially Maokai, the other tank that we've seen. This is going to be difficult for the Flash Wolves to navigate.
I feel like right now Gambit are just looking for an engage. Sion in my head would make the most sense on their draft right now, but they may choose to wait and go for a Maokai a little bit later on, which is one of the big comfort picks for Stasios, and then they can just look to get themselves the mid laner later on.
And look at you two, there's the Maokai for Gambit Esports, as Flash Wolves have a lot of tough choices really to make here in their last two picks of the draft. Cho'Gath, another one that we've seen here and then. We'll see if that's the pick they want here for Hanabi.
So I feel like Cho'Gath is, in terms of the matchup, a fine pick. But again, outside of the Rakan, you don't really have that much engage or that much of a front line. So I wonder if Flash Wolves will just go for some staple damage in something like an Azir or a Cassio. So that way they can have good Baron setups in the later game.
Yeah, I also wouldn't mind to see even potentially something like the Rise and just heavily put Maple... Oh, it's banned, actually. Yeah, wow, God.
They would have liked it too, I think.
Yeah, so Cassiopeia is probably your best bet.
Ooh.
Karma doesn't tick that box for me at all, because I was like, you have to pull this comp apart somehow, and that is not how you pull a comp apart.
That is Karma, though, the last pick for Flash Roll, so we'll see what Kira has as his final pick. I mean, it's kind of like a pick to Vladimir, perhaps. So I agree, I don't really like it either. So we'll see what Gambit have. They are giving Kira a counter pick on what should be quite the hot matchup here in mid.
I think the Cassio makes the most sense here. I really like it into the Karma as well. You can gain a lot of priority in terms of the 1 versus 1. I feel like it gives you a lot of team fight power as well, and it synergizes very nicely with the comp that they've already drafted.
Absolutely, and so much of the Flash Wolves legacy was built around Kasa, Maple, 2v2 taking over the map, Sword Art looking for engages. Cassiopeia wins majority of 2v2s if you can bring any form of CC with your jungler, and right now when you have a look at Cassio going into Karma Kha'Zix, like that is literally a suicide gang on the way.
I'm just, right now I feel like Gambit, their team composition definitely gears more towards the scaling aspect. One of the big things we were talking about in our prep spawn was that Gambit seem to succeed the most when they just have straightforward 5v5 team comps, because this team loves to play around Baron, especially when you get to the 20-25 minute mark. That becomes the big focus of this team, and when we saw them play things like the Fiora, they kept trying to team fight with it and they couldn't properly execute upon that kind of a draft.
Yeah, absolutely, and I talk about it all the time. It's all good to come up with these creative drafts, but at the end of the day, ease of execution earns you bonus points. And when you have a look at things like Trundle and Maokai, the ease of execution is there. You can attack front line. The Trundle ultimate is going to strip it through. You've got 2 very big hyper carries that will be able to get backline access as the fights start to break down and deteriorate. So I absolutely love what Gambit has put together. In a big game for some of your new players, this is going to be a comp that they will be very experienced with.
Now for Flash Wolves though, they do have a lot of early winning lanes. Zyra Khan, always going to be strong. And when you have a Kha'Zix to back it up, looking to play through bot, I feel is the big win condition that Flash Wolves need to find. Because when you have the Karma, you have good early push, Cho'Gath into the Maokai as well, you should have pressure on that lane. So you have 3 lanes in which you can gain that priority, and Mujin just needs to be active. He is the individual that we're looking at to facilitate the early leads for Flash Wolves.
In some ways, it does feel like the gauntlet has been thrown down by Flash Wolves, saying, all right, we'll give you Kaisa, let's see what you got. But Gambit have talked about their preparation all tournament long. They have not stopped practicing since they qualified for this, so should be quite the best of 5 to kick things off onto Summoner's Rift for game number 1.
And we see, once again, just a default start. And I think this kind of gameplay is what we're going to see out of Flash Wolves. You already talked about it, but pushing lanes into vision, into priority, for Mujin to be able to get into the enemy jungle. And I think that when you have a look at it, all of the lanes at this stage will be there at least for the early stages. So Diamond needs to show his savviness, needs to show that veteran status. We will complementing his counter ganks on the likes of the Zac, the Trundle, and the Olaf during the play-in stage. I think this is a game where he needs to be able to dodge the Kha'Zix, because if he ever gets a Karma there in his back pocket, Diamond can be shut down early.
And I'm looking at some of the early vision that has been set up. It feels like the Gambit, they're not too focused on trying to figure out where Mujin is starting. Expectations are that they will look to play through bot side. However, you would imagine that full early clears will be the main priority for both these junglers. And then once they hit that level 4 mark, that's where we should start to see a little bit more jungle interaction and where they want to try and find those early leads.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see both of the lanes actually joining relatively late. Leashless jungle starts coming through. One of the strengths of both these junglers, they don't necessarily need all that much health.
Oh, this could be trouble though. Actually, is Betty maybe going to get turned back around? The stun lands in, and we're going to try and make the play. They flashed it, a double flash forward, and the rookie's going to grab first blood.
Right at the very beginning of the game, Gambit, they might get another.
Going in for Sword Art as well, but no plasma proc this time.
And I said if there's a player to watch on the Gambit lineup, it's going to be Lodic. They gave him the best champion in his role. Eddie goes in nice and aggressive. And I mean, that is a nightmare start for the Flash Wolves.
That is the worst possible start. Our whole narrative coming into the draft was you have to get a lead in the 2 versus 2. Lodik sidesteps, Sword Art engage, and then Gambit's bot lane just go, oh, well, Betty's by himself now. He doesn't have any kind of peel. We're going all in, and the punish was beautiful.
And this is something that we saw a lot. You know, the double W start out of Zion and Rakan. How do you navigate it? Do you flash aggressively? Do you have to burn summoner spells? That was just a sidestep. That was just clutch. That is ice water running through his veins at that stage.
And before the lane had barely started, that is was a big old bagel in Betty's CS column for a while. Now finally starting to pick some up as the lane crashes in. But that is about the best start this young AD carry could ask for.
And to think about it, Lodik, this guy, he came onto the team like during the end of the regular season for Gambit. He is a complete rookie. He's still in school. This guy, expectations were so low, especially when Gambit found so much success with blasting in their own league as well, to come out on the international stage and have such a good play-in, so then against the Flash Wolves, start off the game with a first blood. You couldn't be feeling any more confident than that.
Well, you can see junglers now weaving around after that. Some mishap in the bot lane. Hanabi there onto Stayhouse again. Shoga very good in a lot of these times of matchups, but Diamond back down the bot side for more food. Knockup's going to land in onto Lodik, but Eggwood wants it. Sword Art, no flash, but does zip away with the E.
And this is a thing about Rakan that will suit Sword Art so well. He wants to play aggressively, will go in, but the ability for Rakan to also be able to scoot out of danger means that now they get vision on where Trundle is, and we said so much of this early game, at least from the Kha'Zix perspective, is going to be getting those tells on what side of the map Trundle has been able to get towards and being able to shut it down.
Let's see how it kind of develops. A Sword Art maybe actually caught here again. Long dash range, so no over-aggression there from Gambit.
Now, one of the big things here, or that play was important for the Flash Wolves because Lodik has a lot of gold that he wants to spend right now that he's not being allowed to because of the interaction that Sword Art is playing. Look, 1,200 gold is what he's currently sitting on, and the longer that Flash Wolves can delay it, the more opportunities they have to just try and mitigate that lead as much as possible, so that ideally when Flash Wolves come back to lane after the first base, it's not as bad as it potentially could be.
Again, though, Sword Art going back in a great double knockup. Lodik getting ignited. This might be the counterplay that the Flash Wolves need. Betty wants it, but he doesn't have a flash, and Lodik's going to live through the ignite as well.
Absolutely, but they will crash the wave afterwards, so even though they don't get the ultimate reward, still being able to bully it out, and it's exactly from what you talked to. Actually, Muujin wants it.
Edward says no, he read the play, but now he's getting a little too low. Sword Art going to dive back in under the turret for it, and Muujin collects the kill.
Good guys support Edward. Sacrifices his life to guarantee the survival of his AD carry. That allows Lodik to go back to base, spend some of his gold, but it will mean the Flash Wolves get a bit of pressure back down in the bottom lane.
Yeah, absolutely, and Muujin just picking his mark. This is a guy that doesn't necessarily actually, Maple wants something in the mid lane.
Yeah, out of mana there for Kira. Tough stuff for the Casio, but holds onto the summoner spells.
Yeah, so let's go back to that thought. Muujin, not the highest jungle proximity jungler coming into MSI, was known a little bit more for his farm-heavy gameplay. However, in the finals, did start to show that he was going more towards that mid lane, more towards the bottom lane. And Kasa, as a player, the shoes that this guy has to fill was a hugely aggressive jungle. Wanted to get in the lanes early, and there was this massive debate. Was it Kasa's team? Was it Maple's team? And now Muujin has to be able to come in and show that he can also have impact.
And fortunately for Muujin, who was able to pick up a bit of action down towards the bottom half after what was a great engage from the Flash Wolves. And again, this all came down to the fact that they stopped that early base. Gambit couldn't spend that gold, which means that the 2v2 was still relatively even in terms of experience. They were able to make that play, and they were able to find themselves a kill.
Well, Muujin looking good so far on that Kha'Zix. As you mentioned, Vedia, certainly a pick he is known for, continuing to stalk through the jungle, get down some vision, although Gambit now have placed some control wards to try and defend from a lot of where Kha'Zix is going again. After that bot side play, it feels like Muujin really spread across the map and he's got information, and the bot lane still balanced pretty precariously, but Sword Art again, gonna get stunned the ignite. Oh, he's back up for Ogle, but he didn't use it. The root though still lands in. Lodik, I think, made a bit of a misstep, and now gonna try and fight it out. He burns a heal, he wants the kill, but he's not gonna be able to get it. The heal in response, and Betty gets the next kill.
Absolutely, you can see that Gambit did not want to fight that because the duo lane of Muujin and Maple from the mid were rotating down the river very quickly, and there was just no way they would be able to get out or trade. In the end, Lodik, even burning summoner spells, did get one back in response, but that is a very aggressive play.
Initially, you can see here that the engagement comes down onto Lodik, right? So they get a good chunk of damage down onto Sword Out. Then with the root, they feel that confident enough to go for the re-engage. Edward recognizes, okay, there are 2 people coming bot, Lotus gonna die. But then he sees, oh, maybe I can get a kill onto Sword Art. But then he gets the heal from his Q on top of the heal from the enemy AD carry. And it ends up just being a trade of summoner spells, but Flash will get another kill on the bottom.
And I mean, Sword Art said in the opening tease that he hopes this is an aggressive game. That's the style of League of Legends he likes to play. Well, I think it's more than fair to say, in the bottom lane at least so far, these guys have been trading back and forward, and it is